last year, you missed a heck of a presentation. Steve is building over what, 17 years?
17 years this year.
Probably going to be the ultimate Stinson when he's done. It's
Well, I don't know.
rebuilding.
I don't know about that, but
Oh yeah.
well, we'll see. See if we can get it done, or either that or my wife's next husband's going to have a hell of an
Just
airplane.
an update of where you're at, right?
I beg pardon?
This is an update, about 15-minute update.
15-minute update. So, what are we doing here? This is, okay. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, so last year when I came here, we talked about Y yokes and things like that so I can get a center stack in. We had to make a change. These pulleys right here needed to be dropped down 2 1/4 inches. I was talking to Dave about that. He's not in here right now. Because the cabling was riding up on the sides, and we looked at that and we went, that's not right. So we kind of just had it sliding up and down, and we found the right place, so we had to rebore it, re-put them in. So we just came back from Seattle, so I got this Y yoke with me. It's ready to go back down and get installed in the plane, so that we can get that all rigged up. And you can see this is where the original was, and they're now down about here. And where we were having problems was where it comes around the outside. It was riding up here. And then the other thing is, I just got this duct taped together, but this is where the adjustment goes in there, and there wasn't enough room. I mean, I was missing it by like 1/8 of an inch, so we had to drop that down a little bit. The other thing so last year when I was here talking, I had said we're going to do Kydex plastic on the interior of the airplane. Well, and it's a great product. That's what they put in airliners, but it's heavy. And it also is really floppy. And I was like really confused and confounded about how to get this better. So we went back to plywood, which is what the Stinson was originally built with, and we went to 2.5 millimeter 5-ply, and it's incredibly light and it's incredibly stiff. The other thing that we have is everything is nut plated everywhere in the airplane, so I got like 90 of them. So you can take out the panels that have all the fabric on it and everything, and the whole thing comes apart in pieces. So with, the ceiling comes out with like 6 screws, so it all just drops down. So this is the back seat of my Stinson, and I had a slight problem right here. The sling seats, the buckles go right here. They go around the back. Well, these are my auxiliary tanks here. And you'll see that the tanks, I had them broken so that there's no vibration in it. And then we tested them at like 3.5 PSI, so that blew them up a little bit more. There isn't enough space to get the buckles by here. So we thought, well, what the heck are we going to do? So we went and designed it the same way that you've got the tube that goes along the bottom. We're now putting the tube on the top here that rides in these 2 steel pieces here. And so like a Maul or a de Havilland Beaver, instead of having buckles, we just got a sewn loop in there now. So when you put the back seat in, you slide that thing and you just put it in these cradles, and the whole seat will ride back there. And here, again, this is all the plywood that's going inside. This is where the normal, this line here represents where that would be like if you had a station wagon where the metal, or excuse me, where the wood, you'd see the wood grain in the back. And so this is my airplane in the rotisserie that we have, so you could flip the whole thing around. So what it really is handy when you're fitting the top panel, the ceiling panel. So there's 2 of them, and they'll be covered with fabric and some wool headliner material with a little bit of padding here. And I'm doing this at our Central Arkansas Aircraft Repair down in Lone Oak, Arkansas, right next to where Air Tech is. And there's a guy that they have that works with them. He's a retired guy that worked at Falcon Jet. So they put in all these interiors, and he's helping my wife. The interior is her thing. I'll do this part, but I'm not picking colors or anything else. So she does all that. But some of the other modifications that you can see here, you can see that under the paneling here, this goes much further back than the original, as well as the top comes clear back here with aluminum, to just so that the fabric doesn't drum as much with the increased horsepower and big constant speed prop out front. There's another view of it right there. So that's what the whole thing, it's got visions of the side panels, and again, all this will be cut out. You'll see another picture here where it shows the window cutouts and everything there. So the panel is, I've got the panel in the truck out here. It's we've made so many changes that I wanted one last panel to be done in plastic, so I can mount it up there to make sure everything's going to fit. And the Y yoke fits in here, so the yokes come to here. And then there's an overlay panel that has all the various things that we're going to have in there. We've got aspens and all that kind of stuff in there. So who talked there? This is your seat right here. So,
All right.
So if
Put
there,
in my truck out here.
you just put it.
That's nice.
The problems with the Stinson seats is that they have two flaws. One is right back in here where the hinge will give way, and the other one is, if you look at this one, it's attached to the airframe in two places. Most Stinsons, well, all the others are only one. So I put in additional pins here, and I've got the drawings from Univer that are Stinsons, and then you move the adjuster in about 3 inches, and now it runs. And the big thing that's this one, to take the seat out, you push it forward. So you can see there's the track, and it will go to back. Because what happens, they fail when they slide back and that pin gives out, then they tip and fall into the back seat. Well, these can't because you have to push them forward. I also increased the back, so I sat in my wife's Volkswagen Jetta, and I really like the height of that, so these are Volkswagen Jetta height seats.
Nice.
With a Piper headrest. Now, the only thing about this is that you can't have the headrests installed if you have passengers in the back seat, because it won't tip forward far enough. So they have to be marked on the back type, or a thread marked into back seats may not be occupied when they're in there like that. So, but it'll be really nice when there's only a couple people in it. So the other thing that I was able to get was approval. So I'm putting an IL 390 in my Stinson, and it's going to have an 83-inch MT prop. That's been happening for a long time. I mean, I've had these approvals for about 9 years. This is Steve Pryor. He lives in Idaho. He's got an IL 360, the Univer conversion, and that's the very first MT prop installed. And he's actually flown his plane now. And that is amazing. I mean, he is cruising at less than 75%. He's doing 142 miles an hour. He had a hard time breaking that thing in without exceeding the red line with that engine. He's got the 80-inch prop on that thing. But it is, and I've watched him take out this little field. It's an uphill takeoff with full fuel, just him, and he was off in less than 200 feet. He climbs at about 1,500 feet a minute. It's a sweet, I mean, and you can tell it's like Jody's airplane. You know, there's no scoop underneath there. It comes in through the nose bowl there, the air. So This is and I had also talked about a guy by the name of Steve for Jesse. This is Steve. So he's the only guy that does the welding on my airplane. And here he is, we're making the holes, we're resetting the holes. This is the Y yoke that goes into the front of the airplane. And that's where we're moving the holes down 2¼ inches. He owns a 108-2 that's gonna be, it's very close to flying. He's got a 0-time 180 horsepower Franklin that he found. I don't know where he found it. It was all cosmolined and everything like that, so that's going in his plane. And we also, I had molds made for fairings that we're gonna, we'll be making them, that fare up off the struts, so they fare up beautifully.
Made out of what?
Well, we can make them out of anything, but we laid them up with S2 glass and epoxy, so they're very light. You can bend them a little bit, and
Anybody else want tickets?
they finish right up nice. The other thing we're doing is we're making a mold right now for the interface for the horizontal and the vertical is, and you know that little space down below like this, so it'll be all connected and fit right in.
What about the boot where the struts come down to the fuselage? You gonna make those?
I've already got those. I'm just trying to figure out how I can. I didn't want to talk about it because I haven't got that all figured out yet. But maybe I can talk about them next year. We'll see. But what we did was we bought a scanner, and the dangest thing you ever saw. You take it like this, and you just go right along the plane, and it shows you the scan. It does everything, and we're putting it on. And Steve will make the molds, and then we'll start making them.
Is he gonna make them available for other people?
Yeah, he's a Stinson guy, so we've got a guy who does fiberglass. He's a guru that worked for Boeing for years up there in the Pacific Northwest. And so he's gonna do it, and he's really, really good for, we can develop that. That's it. That's it. I think I had one other thing. I know one other thing too. So I also have worked on, I'm trying to figure out, I got rivets approved for attaching fabric, which is really the only way to do it. You don't want to use those PK screws, especially if they're stainless steel going into an aluminum rib. That's very bad. But what the problem with rivets is that they're a really broad head rivet. If you ever looked at the ribs on a Stinson, they got this little dip down in there, right? So you can't get the broad head rivet to fit down in there. So I had a bunch of spacers cut, and it's made out of 40 thousandths aluminum. I had them laser cut in Heber Springs, Arkansas, and they're 0.355 wide, and they will go down inside there so that when the rivet goes in, the head is it's just such a little blip that you can't hardly see it, but it doesn't hang up on the edge of those ribs. So I'm going to try them, and I made 2 sets, so if they work really well, I'll give another set away if anybody's crazy enough to want to do that kind of stuff.
Were you chasing a 337 for an autopilot? Any news on that?
It'll be a one-time STC. And I talked last year about the importance of kind of working with your FAA guy. And I was telling Jody this, it was the weirdest thing. So about March, April last year, my FAA guy, I wasn't getting anything back from him. And I'm like, I got kind of pissed, you know. And so when I got back to Seattle in June, I went down to the FSDO. I said, I want to see Bill Shin. And they said he died.
That's why you didn't hear from him.
That's exactly right. So I mean, I was shocked. So because he and we were working on the Trio autopilot, right? So what I'm ended up doing is I'm going back to the Chicago ACO because I had worked with them before, and I've worked all the way through with the old DER that they had and all this kind of business all the way up through. So I'm going to go on my own now because the people at Trio did not treat me right. And I did a lot of development, and they just kind of blew me off, and that was the end of that. It's a great little autopilot system, but I'm going to go my own way, and it'll probably take me 8 to 10 months to get that one-time STC, but I'll have it next year, and it's going in. The other thing that we're doing is my Stinson is being used to develop the EarthX battery. Okay, so you go from the Odyssey weighing 15 pounds to 4.8 pounds. And I've been working with the Odyssey and their DER for about 3 years now. He's a great guy, and we're going to be installing it. It's all going on, and it'll be a great battery. And the chemistry, if y'all don't know about lithium iron phosphate, I can explain how that. I used to design battery systems as an engineer. That is safer and a better system than lead acid. Seriously, if you crash and you have the battery compartment is completely annihilated, I'd much rather have lithium iron phosphate powder falling on the ground than I would battery acid or anything else coming onto you. So, yeah. So hopefully I can talk about autopilot next year. Anybody else? Any questions? Okay.
So that autopilot would be for your airframe only?
Technically, yes,
Okay.
but you could go up and wave it at somebody and start doing.
337 or something?
It would be you could show approval. You could show approval for that, and the engineering has been done. And like I said, I've done 70 field approvals on my airplane, and I think Will Ware has them all. So he's busy putting them all up and doing all those kind of things. And if there's anything I can help anybody with on a Stinson, if it's a 108, I'd be more than happy to, because we did the airframe. I mean, I've made changes to the airframe, the tubing, and all this, and it's all approved. And 5-point harnesses in the front, because I don't want to implant my face or my wife's face in there, and just those kind of safety things, that are important. So, all right, thank you very much.